Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Monday, November the 28th. Now we do have a pretty big Monday slate, 10 games tonight guys. We're going to do a quick game-by-game breakdown. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on this 10-game slate, what stands out to me taking a first look on Sunday night. Going to go game-by-game, kind of give some of my quick thoughts on each game. But before we do get started with the breakdown, as always, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, please hit that like button down below. I always do appreciate the likes. And if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button as well. Also, make sure to check out PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. If you guys have never heard of PrizePicks, you can sign up with my promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. In PrizePicks, they're a player prop based DFS site. So as you can see on the screen, they have some props up already for Monday's games. Recording this video on Sunday night, so clearly, there's not a ton of props up right now. But if you check the board sometime closer to tip-off on Monday night, you'll see a full list of props from every different category, from every team. And you can see if there's anything that stands out to you. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. You do have to make at least 2 picks. You can now make up to 6 picks, and you can win up to 10x, or excuse me, you can win up to 25x your money on PrizePicks. So if you guys are not playing on PrizePicks yet, make sure to sign up with promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100. And as always, I will be making a video for today for PrizePicks. I should have that up sometime on Monday, kind of early Monday afternoon, sharing some plays I like for PrizePicks today. If you guys want to check out that video, see some plays I like, you can tell me in that video. But let's go ahead and talk about this 10-game slate for Monday night, and we'll start off with the first game of the night, the Timberwolves and the Wizards. Do want to mention that a lot of these teams playing today play on Sunday, so there's a lot of teams on back-to-backs, and there's a lot of kind of question marks right now. A good amount of guys did not play Sunday, so we're gonna have to wait and see if a lot of these guys that didn't play Sunday wind up playing today. But I'll still try and give you guys my thoughts on each team. So first game of the night, Minnesota and Washington. Starting off on the Washington side, we're gonna have to keep an eye on the injury status of Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma was questionable on Sunday, did not play. And this obviously is an injury that does kind of impact this Washington team in a good amount. So without Kyle Kuzma, I think we can expect pretty big roles for guys like Bradley Beal, Kristaps Porzingis. You can expect pretty good minutes for someone like Deni Avdija. I think if Kuzma were to sit, I'd be a little bit interested in Beal and Porzingis. I don't think at their salaries I would be jamming them in. But Minnesota this season has been playing at a really fast pace. So I think it's a decent spot in general. Bradley Beal had a decent game on Sunday against Boston. He put up 45 DK points in 35 minutes. Porzingis, on the other hand, was really disappointing. Had just 28 Draftkings points in 26 minutes. But clearly, these guys would benefit if Kuzma were to sit. I think Deni Avdija would be viable. He's been playing pretty good minutes lately. He only played 27 minutes on Sunday night, but he's been getting low 30s minutes each night. I think if Kuzma were to be out again, Deni Avdija would be someone you could consider for value. But Rui Hachimura is questionable. He didn't play Sunday. If he gets ruled out, I don't think that's a massive change, but it would obviously, be even more beneficial for a guy like Avdija. Maybe you would see some more minutes for a guy like Will Barton. On Sunday, Will Barton did play 31 minutes. He wasn't very productive, but he would be in line for more minutes too. Right now, I'm not super interested in this Washington team, but I think if Kuzma does sit, if Rui does sit again, then we can look to guys like Beal, Porzingis, Deni Avdija. But right now, no core plays, no standout options coming from the Wizards. And then on the Minnesota side, I don't love a ton on Minnesota today. I think Karl-Anthony Towns is someone that you can kind of always pay up for, but on this slate, he's not really someone I'm trying to jam in. There's just other guys I'd rather spend my salary on that we're going to talk about later. Rudy Gobert is someone that I've kind of been playing lately just because he's been so cheap, and he's had some good games lately. He's also had some disappointing games. I think this is a spot against Washington where I think Gobert can have some success. We've seen Washington give up some big games to centers this season. We know Gobert's a guy that's going to dominate on the glass. So I think Gobert 6,600, I'm okay with. If I had to play anyone on Minnesota, I think Gobert would be my favorite play. But I'm not loving too much on this Timberwolves team. There isn't a ton that stands out here. I know Jaden McDaniels did not play on Sunday, so we'll have to keep an eye on if he were to play or not. I think it was Kyle Anderson who started. I can't remember, honestly. I didn't really pay attention much to NBA on Sunday. I normally don't. But I think it might have been Kyle Anderson that started. It might have been Austin Rivers. It was Austin Rivers that started. So he played 29 minutes. He wasn't very productive. I'd assume if McDaniels were to be out again, Rivers would start again. Don't think Rivers is going to be someone that we really want to consider on a 10-game slate. But, I did at least want to mention that. But that's really it for this game. There's not a ton of love here, but things could get a little bit interesting if Kuzma, Rui, some of these guys were to get ruled out. But for now, don't love much here. So let's move on to the next game, Atlanta and Philadelphia. So for Philadelphia, we're going to need to keep an eye on the status of Joel Embiid. I think Joel Embiid is getting close to a return. He's been out for a while, but he was questionable for Sunday, I do believe, did not play. Maybe he plays today. We'll have to wait and see. Right now, if Embiid winds up playing, I don't really like anything on Philadelphia because all these Philly guys got priced up for when Embiid was out. You know, Melton's $8K now, Harris is $7,900, Milton's $6,500. I think all these guys will be priced correctly if Embiid were to come back. If not, if anything, they'd be a little bit overpriced. But if Embiid does remain out, then we can expect, you know, big usage for Melton, Harris, Milton. You know, all these guys have been playing pretty well lately without Embiid, without Harden, without Maxey. You've seen Melton play huge minutes, be pretty productive. I think the 8K price tag feels correct for him, so he's not like a standout play today, but he would still be viable. I think same could be said for Tobias Harris. He would still be viable. He's had some pretty good games lately. We could obviously expect a really big usage rate, really big role for him if Embiid were to remain out. And then Shake Milton's been really, really productive. He's been playing big minutes too, 36, 38 minutes a night. You know, that game against Orlando, he got up to 42 minutes. He's been a point per minute player that's playing like almost 40 minutes a night. Clearly, I think we can expect his production to come back down to earth a little bit if Embiid does return. But if Embiid remains out, I still think Milton at 6,500 is viable. I think his price tag's starting to get to a point where he's not like a free square. When he was like 5,300, I thought he was just kind of like a lock and load. You just played him. Didn't think twice about it. Now at 6,500, he's not just a guy that you just want to jam in. He's not like a free square, but I would still be interested in Milton today, you know, especially if Embiid sits. And that's probably it from Philadelphia. I don't see too much else I really like here. You know, worth noting, PJ Tucker, I think, got injured in their game Sunday, didn't return. If he were to sit, probably would benefit a guy like Georges Niang. He probably would play more minutes. He'd be an okay value, but not like a priority play. And then on the other side with Atlanta, so, you know, Atlanta, you got Trey and DeJounte at, you know, 9,900 for Trey, 8,900 for DeJounte. I think in this spot against Philly, I'm not really like in love with Trey or DeJounte here. Philly this season been a, you know, fairly good defensive team. They play at a really, really slow pace. So I don't think it's like the best spot for either one of Trey or DeJounte, but clearly these guys have upside. I think 9,900 for Trey is appropriate price tag. I think Murray at 8,900 might be the guy that I would prefer. Now, Murray has kind of been really up and down lately, but he finally had a big game against Houston, which, you know, maybe kind of brought him back to where he should be. I mean, he was disappointing against Miami on Sunday, but that was obviously a really tough matchup. I'm not saying this is the best spot either, but I think at 8,900, I'd be okay going to DeJounte Murray today. I think his ownership is probably going to be low on a big slate like this. But the Atlanta guards are not standout options for me. I think my main interest in the Atlanta side is going to come with the bigs. So we'll have to keep an eye on the status of Clint Capella. Clint Capella was out their last game, and he was out again on Sunday. Don't know yet if he's going to play for Monday's game. We'll just kind of have to keep an eye on it. If Clint Capella plays, I'm not super interested in him. But if he gets ruled out, that does benefit John Collins. It does benefit Onyeka Okongwu as well. Collins had a really big game on Sunday, 47 DK points. He played 37 minutes. I think at 5,500, Collins would be pretty appealing as kind of like a cheaper forward option. You know, no Capella definitely will benefit Collins. He'll probably get some minutes at center. The production should be good, you know, with Capella off the floor. And then Onyeka Okongwu would likely start again at center in place of Capella. Last two games he has started, he's played 33 and 34 minutes. Now, he wasn't very productive on Sunday against Miami. That was a really tough matchup, though. You know, if Embiid were to play, this wouldn't be like the best spot for Okongwu. You would definitely have to worry about foul trouble risk as well. But if Embiid doesn't play, I think it's a pretty good matchup for Okongwu going up against, you know, Montrezl Harrell and Paul Reed. And he's only 4,300. Like, this is still too cheap, in my opinion, for a guy that's going to play 33, 34 minutes and should average close to a fantasy point per minute. So I think Okongwu would be a really good value if Clint Capella remains out. But that's just news we're going to have to, you know, wait and see on. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, though. Talk about the Hornets and the Celtics. So for the Celtics today, Jason Tatum did not play on Sunday. We'll have to keep an eye on his status as well. I assume that Tatum will play today. I'm guessing that he just kind of sat out the front end of the back-to-back so that he could play this game. So I'm expecting Tatum to play. If Tatum does play, you know, these Boston guys definitely have upside here in what is, you know, somewhat of a favorable matchup. Charlotte this season hasn't been as bad defensively. They haven't been like the bad defensive team they were last season. They're also not playing at as fast of a pace as they did last season. But I think Tatum and Brown both have plenty of upside here. Between the two, I think I would take the savings and play Brown. But right now, I'm not super in love with the Boston guys. That would obviously change, though, if Tatum were to get ruled out. The rest of Boston, like Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Grant Williams, none of these guys really stand out. I will say that for Al Horford, it's a really good matchup. We've seen Charlotte get killed by bigs this season. We've seen a lot of centers have really big games against Charlotte. 5,600 on a 10-game slate. Like, I'm not running to roster Al Horford, but I think it's like a low-owned dart throw. If you're playing a lot of lineups, I think he would be someone that I would sprinkle into my player pool, but I wouldn't be rostering him like in a ton of lineups on this slate. But the matchup is very strong, obviously. And then on the other side with Charlotte, I mean, really nothing stands out from Charlotte. It's kind of a tough spot here against the Celtics. Terry Rozier is going to have big usage without LaMelo and Gordon Hayward, but matchup's not great. Price tag feels about right. I think Rozier's playable, but I'm not in love with him. I think the same could be said for Oubre. I do want to mention that last game they did start Jalen McDaniels in place of Gordon Hayward, and I assume Jalen McDaniels will start once again. He did play 31 minutes in the game that he started. He was not very productive, but at 4K, probably playing 30, 32 minutes. You know, McDaniels has been somewhat productive when he's gotten minutes this season, so I think he's in play for value. And honestly, he might be my favorite play from Charlotte overall today, just because, you know, the salary or the salary savings you get going to him. He should probably put up, you know, close to a fantasy point per minute. He should play close to 30 minutes. I think he's in play at 4K, but I'm not really liking a ton from this Charlotte team. It's just such a tough spot. The price tags look all about right. Nothing, you know, really stands out here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Cleveland and Toronto. And man, this is another one that just doesn't look that appealing, especially if, you know, some of these teams get some bodies back. Like right now, Pascal Siakam is questionable, Scotty Barnes is questionable. If these guys were to return for Toronto, it just wouldn't make Toronto look that appealing today because, you know, clearly OG and Fred VanVleet have been benefiting without Siakam, without Scotty Barnes, but they would definitely lose usage if those guys were to come back. The price tags on OG and VanVleet also look appropriate if they were to come back, but if they were to remain out, then we can expect big roles for OG, big roles for VanVleet. You know, OG's been playing huge minutes lately, been pretty productive. Same goes for VanVleet. We know these guys are going to get massive minutes. The matchup here against Cleveland is not the best. It's definitely going to be kind of a slow-paced game, but if Siakam and Barnes are not playing, then we can expect, you know, big minutes and big usage for OG and VanVleet, and they would be viable options if those guys remain out. You could also look to some other guys coming off the bench here, like a Chris Boucher, who's been really productive lately. He should get good minutes here. Matchup's not the best, but again, we know Boucher can produce when given minutes, and I think there'd be a lot of playing time available for him if, you know, Barnes and Siakam don't play. Same goes for guys like Thaddeus Young and Gary Trent. You know, Gary Trent's not been that great lately, but I think at 5,400, he'd be like an okay option. Thad Young would definitely be viable as well. He's been somewhat productive on a point-per-minute basis. I don't see it. You know, I'm not really like running to roster these Toronto guys, and I think if Siakam plays, if Scotty Barnes plays, I'll probably just be fading Toronto as a whole. But if those guys remain out, then, you know, the players that we just talked about, you could consider. On the Cleveland side, I don't really like much from Cleveland here. We'll have to keep an eye on the status of Jared Allen and Kevin Love and Karis LeVert too. Like all those guys were out on Sunday. My guess is that they probably play today, which just doesn't make Cleveland look that appealing. But if there's no Jared Allen, if there's no Kevin Love, I mean, we can expect really big minutes for Evan Mobley. And Evan Mobley played 40 minutes in their game on Sunday against Detroit. Don't know if he would play 40 minutes again on the second night of a back-to-back, but clearly Evan Mobley is going to benefit without Allen and without Love, and I think he would be a pretty good play here at 6,800 if those guys were to be out. The guards, though, like 9K for Mitchell and 8,800 for Garland. Neither one looked that appealing to me on this slate. Tougher spot against Toronto. There's other guys I'd rather spend up for. So I think that does it for this game. I think we kind of talked about everything here, at least for the most part. So let's move on to the next game, Orlando and Brooklyn. So, you know, another one that I'm just not super interested in. On the Brooklyn side, I don't see much I like on Brooklyn today. KD at 11-1 feels priced correctly. Kyrie's price tag is starting to come way down, but his production's also not been that great. Really, since he's come back from his suspension, he's not been super productive. He's yet to put up over 40 Draftkings points. So you're kind of like, you know, if this type of production continues for Kyrie, you know, 8,400 is not a price tag that you're going to want to pay for him. He's basically been producing at like he's been playing like a 7K player. But I have a feeling at some point Kyrie's going to put up like a 45, 50 Draftkings point game. Don't know when it's going to happen. Between him or KD, I think I'd rather take the, you know, almost $3,000 savings and play Kyrie, but neither one of the Brooklyn big two I'm really like loving today. And then like Ben Simmons, he's been playing well lately. He's looked a lot better, but he's 7,100 now, so he doesn't really stand out to me. Nicholas Claxton's a little bit cheap at 5,500. I don't love this matchup against Orlando, but I think this is definitely a spot where they're going to need his size. So like he's an okay value, but again on a 10-game slate, not loving it. I know Seth Curry had a really big game on Sunday. He's cheap. If you want to go to Seth Curry, I think you could. But this is a back-to-back, and I don't think Seth Curry has played on a back-to-back yet this season. So like there's a chance he doesn't even play today. They might just sit Seth Curry here on the back-to-back. Right now, just Brooklyn's kind of just a team I'm not that in love with. And on the Orlando side, I mean, there's just so many question marks right now with Orlando. Wendell Carter Jr. questionable. I think Jalen Suggs is questionable as well. Yeah, he did not play Sunday. Mo Bamba got injured in Sunday's game, so we'll have to see if he plays for today. And then Markelle Fultz was questionable, didn't play, but maybe he makes his season debut today. Possibly. And then Cole Anthony, I think he has a chance to return soon. So it's just kind of a tough situation to really break down right now. I think what I can confirm is that if Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba don't play, so if they're without both Carter Jr. and Bamba, we could expect Mo Wagner to see some good minutes. And Mo Wagner has been, he's back in the lineup now. He's been out for a while. He's been out for a while this season, but he's finally back playing. Last 2 games, he's played 17 and 26 minutes. And clearly, there'd be a lot of minutes available for him if Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr. were to be out. So I think Mo Wagner is someone I'd be looking to for value if those guys are out. If the guards are out, I don't even know what they did with the starting lineup. Again, I don't pay attention to NBA a ton on Sundays. I think they started Gary Harris. I think I remember seeing Gary Harris start. He did start Sunday, played 29 minutes, had 22 DK points. Maybe if all those guards are out again and Gary Harris starts, we could consider him for value. But this is a super tough situation to break down right now because so many guys are questionable for Orlando. Right now, I'm not really loving much on Orlando, but that will definitely change if a lot of these questionable guys don't play and if they become a really shorthanded team. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see with this Magic team. Let's move on to the next game, though. We got a few more to go over. So OKC and New Orleans. This is one that we're definitely going to have to spend some time on. Now, for the OKC side, I don't love much on OKC today outside of SGA, and that's kind of always the case. These other OKC guys like Giddey and Dort and Poku, I really never play these guys. And on a 10-game slate, I'm just not going to be taking shots on the OKC bench because they just run such a deep rotation. They play so many guys every night. The minutes are so sporadic for the rest of the OKC guys, but what we do know is that SGA is going to play big minutes on a nightly basis. We know he's going to have a massive usage rate. This matchup against the Pelicans, against Herb Jones, is not the best, but does it really matter at this point? I think SGA is basically a matchup-proof player, so he is firmly in play on this slate. And then for the Pelicans, there's a lot to like on the Pelicans today. So CJ McCollum has already been ruled out for today, and Brandon Ingram is doubtful. So with Brandon Ingram unlikely to play, with CJ McCollum out, we can expect massive usage for Jonas Valanciunas, for Zion Williamson. And Zion Williamson's only 7,900 today. He's going to be really, really chalky, I'd assume. But in a great matchup against OKC, it's really hard to not consider Zion a top option today. And then J-Val, I know J-Val has been so disappointing lately, but man, this is a smash spot for J-Val going up against the Thunder. The Thunder this season, they've been terrible defensively against bigs. They really struggle to rebound. This is definitely one of those spots where we could see a 2010 type of game from J-Val. And at 5,900, he's not that expensive either. So really like Zion, really like J-Val. And then, without Brandon Ingram and without CJ McCollum, I assume we'll see Trey Murphy start in place of Ingram. We'll see Alvarado start in place of McCollum. Both Murphy and Alvarado I do like for value. Murphy's only 4,600, fairly cheap. He's been productive when given minutes this season, and obviously there'd be a lot of playing time for him. Same goes for Alvarado. Last 2 games he started in place of McCollum. He's been okay, 30 minutes, 26 DK points. Last game only played 22 minutes, but that game was a blowout, so obviously you don't want to look too much into that one. He's been about a point per minute player this year. Alvarado has probably going to play 30, 32 minutes here. He's only 4,300. I think he's a solid value play as well. Clearly, without Ingram, there's even more usage available for these guys. Herb Jones, I don't know if his role changes too much, but I think he does get a slight boost as well. And at 4,500, he's a playable value option. But the bench guys, I'm not super interested in. I think if you're going to take some shots on the bench guys, you can maybe look to a Devontae Graham in GPPs. Maybe you could look to a Najee Marshall in GPPs. Do want to mention that Larry Nance is questionable, and if Larry Nance were to be out as well, that would be even better for a guy like Jonas Valanciunas. We've seen Larry Nance take minutes away from J-Val this season, and sometimes they have closed with Nance over J-Val. So obviously that wouldn't be as likely if Nance were to be out. So if Nance winds up getting ruled out, I feel even better about J-Val. And I think Zion's a great play regardless. So there's a lot to like from the Pelicans today. Definitely Zion, J-Val, Murphy. Really, honestly, the whole starting 5. But I think Zion, J-Val, Murphy, Alvarado, probably my 4 favorites. Really like the spot for both Zion and J-Val. I think you could see a big game from both of those guys. Let's move on to the next game, though. We got, I think 4 more to go over. So Houston and Denver. For Denver, I think Jokic and Murray are the 2 guys I'm really looking to on Denver today. We do want to mention that Bones Highland's currently questionable. We'll have to keep an eye on his status. He's been out, I think, the last 1 or 2 games. And then Michael Porter Jr. did not play last game. He's questionable as well. Didn't participate in Sunday's practice, so Probably not going to play today, but this will be something to monitor. Clearly, if Bones Highland and Michael Porter Jr. are out, we can expect, once again, big usage for Jokic, big usage for Jamal Murray. Maybe Aaron Gordon benefits a little bit too. But I think Jokic, against Houston, definitely like the spot here for Jokic. Houston hasn't been as bad defensively this season, but I think Jokic should definitely crush here. Jokic has been playing at an elite level lately. Production's been great. Price tag's high, but on a slate like this with so much value, we're probably going to be able to easily go to Jokic. So I definitely like Jokic here as a top pay-up option. And I think Jamal Murray's in a really good matchup. We've seen Houston get killed by guards this season. Houston has given up a lot of fancy points to point guards. I think it's a really good matchup for Jamal Murray. Production's been solid for him lately as well. Minutes are pretty much normal now. He's playing 34, 35 minutes a night. Even at 7K, I still have some interest in Jamal Murray today because the matchup is so strong. And that's probably it for Denver. I know Bruce Brown started last game, but I think his production is not going to be as good playing with Jamal Murray, playing with Jokic, playing with Aaron Gordon. Don't expect him to be as productive on a permanent basis. So, I'm not running to roster Bruce Brown today, even if he starts again. Really never play KCP. And then on the other side with Houston, don't like much from Houston here. I think the guards, KPJ and Jalen Green, both feel priced correctly. This is also not the best spot against Denver. And then Şengün's a guy that I always have interest in. Şengün went absolutely nuts against OKC on Saturday, put up 65 DK points in 35 minutes. But this is clearly a tough matchup against Jokic. There's definitely some foul trouble risk as well here. Definitely gonna shy away from Şengün today. But man, like you saw on Saturday, when Şengün gets a good matchup, when he faces teams like OKC, he can just go nuts. Just don't think this is the best spot for Şengün. Definitely would expect a more average game from him tonight in a tough matchup. But that really does it for this game. I don't see too much I like on Houston in general. I think most of my interest is on the Denver side, and it's coming with guys like Jokic and Murray. Next game, though, Chicago and Utah. So for Chicago today, don't love much on Chicago. I think the one guy that looks appealing just kind of due to matchup is Nikola Vucevic. We've seen Utah get killed by centers this season. We've seen a lot of centers put up huge games against the Jazz. The Jazz struggle to rebound. They give up a lot of points in the paint. I think this sets up as a pretty good matchup for Vooch. Don't really ever play Vooch when the team's fully healthy, but in this type of matchup, I could see him putting up a really big game. So kind of interested in Vooch from Chicago, but that's really it. And then on the Utah side, we're going to have to watch some injury news here. Lauri Markkanen's questionable. Mike Conley maybe plays today. He's been out for the last few games. If Lauri Markkanen sits, that does change a lot on Utah. Without Markkanen, you would see more usage for guys like Jordan Clarkson, for Malik Beasley. Don't know who would start in place of Markkanen. It could be Beasley. It could be Talen Horton-Tucker. Probably one of those guys. My guess is it would be Beasley. But they've kind of been using Beasley as their sixth man this year. So maybe they decide to keep him coming off the bench and maybe they start THT. But there could be some value from Utah if Markkanen does sit. We could get some value from a guy like THT. If he were to start, he's only 3,800. And then, Clarkson would benefit a little bit. I think at 7,500, he's priced correctly, but there would obviously be more usage available for him without Markkanen. Slight boost for guys like Kelly Olynyk too, but I'm not super interested in Kelly Olynyk today. If Mike Conley remains out, I think Colin Sexton at 5,500 is still viable. He's been playing well lately without Conley. That's probably it for this game. There's not too much to love here, but definitely, we'll have to keep an eye on this Lauri Markkanen news because if he gets ruled out, there will be some appealing plays from the Utah side, especially, depending on what their starting lineup looks like. But two more games to cover real quick. So Phoenix and Sacramento. Another game that I don't see a ton that I love. On the Phoenix side, no Chris Paul once again, so we can expect a lot of usage for Devin Booker. We can expect Cameron Payne to continue to play big minutes. But Booker's 9,600. Don't love that price tag. DeAndre Ayton's 7,700. Coming off a big game, but now that price tag feels correct. Mikal Bridges 7K. Don't love that price. I think Cameron Payne at 6,900. If I had to play anyone on Phoenix, he probably would be the guy that I'd go to. It's a good matchup here against Sacramento, but all these Phoenix guys feel priced correctly in my opinion, so I'm not loving much from Phoenix. And then on the Sacramento side, it's a tough spot here against a good Suns team that plays good defense. I don't love a ton on Sacramento. I think Fox and Sabonis you can pretty much always go to in tournaments, but this is not a slate where I would really be prioritizing either one. And then, guys like Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, I'm not going to really play those guys on a 10-game slate. So this is kind of a fade spot for me. I don't love much from this Phoenix-Sacramento game. And then the last game of the night, the Lakers and the Pacers. This is one that I think kind of looks appealing because you have two fairly bad defensive teams going up against each other, and you have two teams that also play at a pretty fast pace. This season, the Lakers are playing at the fastest pace in the league. The Pacers are playing at the 5th fastest pace in the league. So both these teams are top 5 in pace this season. Did see that Anthony Davis is questionable for this game. He did not play in their last game on Saturday against the Spurs, so we'll have to keep an eye on Anthony Davis' status, and I think LeBron's probable. Looks like he's questionable as well, so LeBron and AD are both questionable. My guess, they both play, and if they do both play, I don't think there's going to be much to like from the Lakers, because when LeBron and Anthony Davis are both healthy and both playing, they're just going to dominate the usage, and it's going to be really hard for the rest of these guys to put up great games. But obviously things could change here if LeBron and or Anthony Davis sit. Last game we saw Anthony Davis sit, and then we did see more usage for like Dennis Schroeder. I know Dennis Schroeder had a really big game without Anthony Davis. I think Schroeder at 4,500 would become a viable option if Davis were to sit or LeBron were to sit. Either one. We saw Thomas Bryant start in place of Anthony Davis. He only played 18 minutes, but he was productive in those minutes. At 3,900, if Thomas Bryant were to start again, I think he'd be someone we could maybe consider as a value play. But that's probably it for the Lakers. Right now, the Lakers are not a team I'm loving to target today because I think LeBron and AD are both going to play. And if they do, you could maybe look to them, but I think they're both priced correctly here. So yeah, the Lakers are just kind of a tough team right now. We're going to have to wait and see on LeBron and AD's status. And then for the Pacers, I think there's a couple guys that look appealing from the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton in tournaments, I do have interest in here. I think the $9,400 salary is correct for him, but there's definitely a lot of upside for Halliburton in this matchup. The Lakers, they're not strong defensively. They play at a fast pace, and this is a matchup that Halliburton should definitely thrive in. I think this is one of those spots where he could put up like 50, 55 Draftkings points. So I do like Tyrese Halliburton in this spot. I think Miles Turner is in a pretty good matchup as well. The Lakers have been giving up some fancy points to centers this season. If Anthony Davis were to sit, it would become an even better spot for Miles Turner. Turner, he dealt with some foul trouble on Sunday against the Clippers, just didn't have the best game in general. I would expect him to bounce back here in a pretty favorable matchup. So Turner, kind of appealing for tournaments. Even a guy like Buddy Hield, I don't hate in tournaments in this spot, and what should be a really fast-paced game. I think this matchup sets up pretty well for Buddy Hield's skill set. And outside of those top three guys, that's probably it from the Pacers. I really don't think I'm going to go to anything else on this team. So that does it, guys. 10-game slate for Monday night. Hopefully, I broke it down the best I could, gave you guys some good information for tonight's slate. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you enjoy these videos, you enjoy these DFS videos, hit that like button down below and hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. Also, again, check out PrizePicks, sponsor of this video. You can sign up for PrizePicks and use my promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit match up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And as always, guys, should have a video posted for PrizePicks today, sometime late, or early Monday afternoon. Check the channel. Should have a video posted then, sharing some plays I like for PrizePicks today. If you want to tell me, just watch that video and see some of the plays I like. But good luck on this 10-game slate, guys. Appreciate you watching the video. As always, supporting the content. Best of luck tonight, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.